This gun lights your firemen, the pilot lights out.
This football team is coming into our place. We're standing in our way.
This is a game of the heart. Focus and finish.
Week 10 in the NFL is one of those weeks where it's great to play daily fantasy football. Many of you are out of it in your leagues, and this forum gives you new life as you get a fresh start drafting a new team each and every week. Think about it. The process is much easier to gain than earlier on in the season, as the true colors of the teams and the individual players have shown themselves, and you can use all the information you've obtained to date to make your roster decisions. Now, if you're not familiar with daily fantasy, this is where you can draft a different team each week where your roster is comprised in a salary capped manner. So for instance, you can go ahead and take Peyton Manning and Drew Brees this week as your quarterbacks, and you're golden, right? Well, maybe not, because you're going to have to pay through the nose for them and fill the rest of your roster in large part with scrubs. Now, I'm going to take a look at 3 games this week where you want to grab players from, and the logic is much simpler than you might think. And for those of you looking to make a run at your league title, if you have any of the players mentioned here, you'd be wise to consider getting them in, or if you have a chance to get them, you'd be wise to do that as well. But first up, we have Detroit at Chicago. These two teams are coming from polar opposite situations. The Lions are coming off a bye week with extra time to physically mend and prepare, and the Bears, well, they're coming off a short week after playing Monday night at Lambeau. The over-under here is as high as 51.5 in some sportsbooks, and Lions are only favored by 2.5, which means that both teams are expected to find the end zone quite frequently. On Detroit's side of the ball, you have Matt Stafford, Reggie Bush, Megatron, Chris Durham, and Brandon Pettigrew to work with. And on Chicago's side of the ball, you have Josh McCown or Jay Cutler. Either one, whoever's in there you're going to want. Matt Forte, Brandon Marshall, Alshon Jeffrey, and Martellus Bennett. Those are your go-to guys. And don't forget about the kickers. There are plenty of field goals and extra points to go around in high-scoring games. David Akers and Robbie Gould are the kickers in this one. San Diego at Denver. John Fox not being on the sideline isn't really going to affect the scoring in this one. And Phillip Rivers is going to be making like Dan Fouts, slinging the rock all over the field to keep up with the Broncos scoring. The over-under in this one is 54.5, and there will be plenty of fantasy points to be had from members of both teams. So grab a scribe and write this down. Your fantasy suspects here will be Phillip Rivers, Ryan Matthews, Danny Woodhead, Keenan Allen, Eddie Royal, Antonio Gates, and Nick Novak, the kicker. Don't forget the kicker. Now on the other side, on the Broncos side, we've got Peyton Manning, of course, Noshawn Marino, Monte Ball. Now Ball is someone you need to focus on going forward as he gets more playing time and touches without Ronnie Hillman in the picture. He's also going to get the chance to become somewhat of a TD vulture. We've also got Wes Welker, Demaryius Thomas, Eric Decker, Julius Thomas, and the best fantasy kicker in the game, Matt Prater. And last up, it's Dallas at New Orleans on Sunday night. Hey, the Saints are a completely different team at home, and we've all seen the way Tony Romo can play 99% of the game, keeping up with the scoring. We'll get more information today on Darren Sproles, but whether he's in there or not, this is expected to be a score-a-thon. 58.5 is the over-under here. And you've got Des Bryant, Terrence Williams, Cole Beasley, Jason Witten, DeMarco Murray, Dan Bailey. On the Saints side, you got Drew Brees, Pierre Thomas, Mark Ingram, Jimmy Graham, Robert Meacham, Lance Moore, Kenny Stills, and the kicker, Garrett Hartley. And who knows, after last week's wake-up call, perhaps even Marquise Colston suits up and gets in the mix. Now, if you're looking for a defense this week, you're going to want to play Tennessee, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, the Giants, or Houston. Today's Twitter question comes from @Foster40, who writes, which top 10 fantasy quarterback do you have the least faith in going forward? That would be Russell Wilson. Hey, look, I know he's gotten it done throwing what seems like 2 TDs every week and often running one in for good measure. The guy only throws for 205 yards per game, and if you take away week 1, he only averages 190 yards a game. He's a very good game quarterback with all the intangibles you'd ever want, but I just think that the odds are in favor of him not scoring highly in fantasy over time with so few passing yards each week. Now, if you have a question you want answered, hit me up with a tweet, and if I don't use your question on the program, I'll tweet you back with my best advice. And be sure to tune in to the Roto Experts Fantasy Football News Notes and Analysis segment every weekday. I'll be here to keep you current and ahead of the competition, And on weekends, come back for This Week in Fantasy Football, as I team up with the king, Scott Engel, covering the week that was, the week that will be, and answering your viewer questions. For Roto Experts, I'm Mike Cardano.